Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Miss Glen and Friends Read On. Tonight, we have a very special guest, Miss Erin. I'm excited for her to tell you all a little about herself and read her book. So, I'm not going to get in the way. I'm going to turn it right over to her and let her get started.
Thank you, Miss Glen. I'm so excited to read to your class tonight. This is so fun for me to be able to do because I'm at home like all of you, and my kids are a little bit older. So I'm not doing homeschooling right now. But Miss Glen and I met several years ago on a very special trip that we took together to a country called Malawi. And it sounds like you guys have learned a little bit about Malawi, or some of you have anyway. So I chose a book tonight that is about Malawi, and it's called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. And I think some of you may have heard this story from Miss Glen, but I'm going to read it to you tonight. And if you have questions while I'm reading, go ahead and post them, and hopefully Miss Glen or I can answer them for you. So here we go with The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. In a small village in Malawi, where people had no money for lights, nightfall came quickly and hurried poor families to bed. But for William, the darkness was best for dreaming. He dreamed of building things and taking them apart, like the trucks with bottle-capped wheels parked under his bed, and pieces of radios that he'd cracked open and wonder, if I can hear the music, then where's the band? His grandpa's tales of magic also whispered in the pitch black of his room. Witch planes passed through the window while ghost dancers twirled around the room as if 100 men were inside their bodies. Ooh, I gotta get so you can see the pictures. At dawn in the fields, William scanned the maze rows for magical beings, then wondered, as a truck rumbled past, how does its engine make it go? Pay attention where you throw that hoe, his father shouted. You'll cut off your foot. For all its power over dancers and flying things, magic could not bring the rain. Without the water, the sun rose angry each morning and scorched the fields, turning the maize into dust. Without food, Malawi began to starve. Soon, William's father gathered the children and said, from now on, we eat only one meal per day. Make it last. In the evenings, they sat around the lantern and ate their handful, watching the hungry people pass like spirits along the road. Money also disappeared with the rain. Pepani, his father said, I'm sorry. You will have to drop out of school. Now William stood on the road and watched the lucky students pass, alone with the monster in his belly and the lump in his throat. For weeks he sulked under the mango tree until he remembered the library down the road. He found science books filled with brilliant pictures. With his English dictionary close by, William put together how engines moved those big trucks and how radios pulled their music from the sky. But the greatest picture of all was a machine taller than the tallest tree with blades like a fan. A giant pinwheel? Something to catch magic? Slowly he built the sentence. Windmills can produce electricity and pump water. He closed his eyes and saw a windmill outside his home, pulling electricity from the breeze and bringing light to the dark valley. Trying to keep my book straight here. He saw the machine drawing cool water from the ground, sending it gushing through the thirsty fields, turning the maize tall and green. Even when farmers' prayers for rain went unanswered, this windmill was more than a machine. It was a weapon to fight hunger. I will build electric wind, he said. In the junkyard, pieces appeared, like rusted treasures in the tall grass. A tractor fan, some pipe, and bearings and bolts that required every muscle to remove. Tonga, he shouted at the birds and the spiders, holding up his prize. But as William dragged his metals home, people called out, "This boy is masala. Only crazy people play with trash." After many weeks, William arranged his pieces in the dirt. A broken bicycle, rusted bottle caps, and a plastic pipe. Even a small generator that powered a headlight on a bike. For 3 days, he bolted, banged, and tinkered while chickens squawked and dogs barked and neighbors shook their heads, saying, "What's Masala doing now?" His cousin Jeffrey and best friend Gilbert soon appeared. "Muy bwanji," they greeted. "Can we help with electric wind?" "Grab your pangas and follow me," he said, and took them into the forest. Together, they swung their sharp blades into the trunks of blue gum trees, then hammered them together to make the tower. Standing atop, William shouted, "Bring it up!" While the boys tugged and heaved, a crowd gathered below and gazed at this strange machine that now leaned and wobbled like a clumsy giraffe. Some giggled, others teased, but William waited for the wind. Like it always came, first a breeze, then a gusting gale, the tower swayed and the blades spun around. With sore hands once slowed by hunger and darkness, William connected the wires to a small bulb, which flickered at first, then surged as bright as the sun. "Tonga," he shouted, "I have made electric wind." "Well done," a man yelled. As the doubters clapped and cheered, William knew he had just begun. Light could not fill empty bellies, but another windmill could soak the dry ground, creating food where once there was none. Electric wind can feed my country, William thought. And that was the strongest magic of all. That's the end. And Miss Glen asked me to leave you with a question. So the question I want to leave you with, while you have lots of time at home to explore all kinds of things, is what are you curious about? And what do you wonder about? Maybe it's how something works, or where something came from, or why something is the way it is. Now is a really good time to explore those curiosities, because one of the things I know is that when you're curious about something, it might mean that somewhere down the line, it could be something that you become really passionate about. It could become your job, or it could become something that you do in your spare time that you end up being really good at. And those things usually start with curiosity. So just like William, if you're curious about something, you should definitely try and learn more about it during this time when you're at home.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that book. And I see Prajwala, you asked this, is there a challenge? And I would say yes, the challenge is to really sit back and think, what are some things that you're curious about around your house? What are some things you're just curious about in the world? And as Miss Erin said, now's a perfect time. You can do your own research project, find out, how things work, why things are the way they are. just whatever. Let your curiosity just kind of guide that research, whatever you look into. Great reading.
I became really curious when I was about 7 years old about kids in Africa. And I didn't know why I was so curious about it. But as I got older and older and learned more and more, it turned out that that was going to be something that was my job and something that I became really passionate about. And it all started with a very simple curiosity when I was really little. So that's why I challenge our students to think about what they're curious about. Are they curious about animals or nature or books or cooking? There's so many things, but if something is in your mind and you think about it often, that's something that you should definitely explore and try and figure out why.
Absolutely. So I see that we have Prajwala, Jahaziel, Datavion, Aubrey, Kennedy. All of you have joined. So if you will, in the comments below, or you can send it through Seesaw, you can send it through Class Dojo. Tell me something you're curious about, and we can look into that and we can explore it together. Hey, Kaylee, I see Kaylee also. And we can explore whatever you're curious about over the next few weeks. Thank you all so much for joining, and thank you so much, Erin, for coming in and reading such an amazing book to the students and posing this question that is certainly one most fitting for this time. We appreciate you so much. And students, I'll see you all tomorrow. We'll have a reading both at 2:30 and 7. You all have a good night. Have a good night, Erin.